When Michaela walked away at the end of last season, the show framed it as noble, respectful, painfully selfless. John Sterling had just died, Francesca was shattered, and the emotional tension between them had reached a point where staying felt impossible. So Michaela did what any honorable person would do. She left. She removed herself from the situation. She gave Francesca space to grieve her husband without confusion clouding the process. That's what we were told. But here's the part nobody is talking about. Michaela did not look defeated when she left. She didn't look like someone running from temptation. She looked controlled, intentional, almost resolved. And that changes everything. Because if Michaela truly believed her feelings were wrong, inappropriate, or dangerous, she wouldn't have stayed as long as she did in the first place. The tension between her and Francesca had been building quietly for episodes. Lingering eye contact, conversations that went a little too deep, moments of silence that said more than dialogue ever could. She knew what she was feeling, and she knew Francesca felt it too. So why wait until after John's death to create distance? That timing is not accidental. John's sudden aneurysm didn't just leave Francesca widowed. It changed the social and emotional landscape completely. While he was alive, Michaela's feelings were forbidden in the clearest sense. After his death, the obstacle shifted. The problem was no longer betrayal, it was grief. And grief is something society understands. Grief is something that can be navigated, respected, even waited out. So, if anything, John's death created a future possibility that didn't exist before. And that's exactly why Michaela leaving when she did feels calculated. Because staying would have made her the immediate replacement, the rebound, the whisper in the Tun's drawing rooms, the cousin who moved in too quickly, the woman circling a fresh widow. In a society obsessed with reputation, that kind of scandal would destroy Francesca before she even had time to process her loss. Michaela knows how the Tun works. She understands the rules. She understands the cruelty of gossip. And if there is one thing this show has proven again and again, it's that timing is everything. Look at how long Penelope held on to her secret as Lady Whistledown. Look at how carefully Lady Danbury plays her influence. Look at how Queen Charlotte waits before making a move. The most powerful players in this world don't act on emotion alone. They act on strategy. And Michaela has quietly shown she is far more strategic than we first believed. Her exit wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. There was no screaming confrontation, no scandalous reveal, just a decision, a calm, heartbreaking choice to step away. But stepping away can be more powerful than staying, because absence creates longing. Absence creates clarity. Absence forces Francesca to sit with her feelings without distraction. If Michaela had stayed, Francesca could have buried her emotions under grief and confusion. She could have convinced herself that whatever she felt was just shock, just vulnerability, just the aftermath of trauma. But with Michaela gone, those feelings don't disappear. They grow, they echo, they become undeniable. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Michaela didn't just leave Francesca, she left the Tun entirely. That detail matters more than people think. If she simply wanted distance, she could have stayed in London and avoided close contact. Instead, she removed herself from the entire social circle. That suggests preparation. That suggests intention beyond temporary space. What if she's waiting? Waiting for the right time, waiting for society to settle, waiting for Francesca to grieve properly, waiting for the whispers about John's death to fade, waiting until pursuing something more wouldn't feel like a betrayal. Because in the world of Bridgerton, timing is the difference between scandal and romance, and Michaela may be playing the long game. There's also the emotional side that can't be ignored. Michaela is not careless. She saw how deeply Francesca loved John.
That love was real. It was quiet but powerful, and Michaela understands that you cannot compete with a memory, especially not one sealed by tragedy. If she had stayed, she would always be standing in the shadow of a husband who died too soon. But if she leaves, if she allows time to pass, if she allows Francesca to choose her freely without pressure, then the love that grows afterward won't be born from loneliness, it will be born from understanding. And that is a completely different foundation. The showrunner has already hinted that Francesca's season will be layered, complicated, and emotionally intense. This is not a quick rebound romance. This is not a dramatic scandal for shock value. This is a slow transformation, which means Michaela's exit may not be an ending at all. It may be the first move in a much bigger story. But if that's true, then the real question isn't why she left. The real question is what she's planning while she's gone.
Everyone keeps focusing on the emotional reason for Michaela's exit, the grief, the longing, the tension that became too heavy to ignore. But what if that's only the surface layer? What if Michaela didn't just leave to protect Francesca's heart, but to protect her future? Because the truth is, Francesca is no longer just a grieving widow. She is a Sterling. John's death didn't erase his title, his estate, or the expectations that come with it. Overnight, Francesca became a woman with social weight, financial responsibility, and a name that carries influence. And in the world of the ton, that kind of power attracts attention. Dangerous attention. We've seen it before in Bridgerton. When someone gains status, the whispers start, alliances shift, opportunists circle. And if there is one thing this show understands perfectly, it's that vulnerability in high society is never ignored. Francesca is vulnerable now. Young, widowed, emotionally raw, and positioned in a family that already draws constant scrutiny. The Bridgertons are watched, studied, judged, and now Francesca's situation adds an entirely new layer of fascination for the ton to sink its teeth into. So ask yourself this: would Michaela really leave if she believed Francesca was safe? Michaela knows Scotland. She understands the Sterling estate. She understands the politics tied to that title. She grew up in that world. If there were financial disputes, inheritance questions, distant relatives with ambitions, or even social pressure to remarry quickly to secure the estate, Michaela would see it coming long before Francesca would. And maybe that's exactly why she stepped back. Because staying close would blur her position. If she remained at Francesca's side, her presence could complicate inheritance discussions. It could invite speculation about influence. It could create doubt in her intentions in the eyes of powerful men who would prefer Francesca isolated and manageable. But if she leaves, she removes herself from suspicion. She makes herself neutral. She becomes invisible. And in this show, invisibility is power. Think about Penelope when she was Lady Whistledown. Her strength came from being overlooked, from standing in corners, from listening while others assumed she didn't matter. Michaela could be doing the same thing now, just on a much larger scale. Because what if she didn't leave to disappear? What if she left to gather information? What if she's positioning herself somewhere strategic, watching from a distance, preparing for whatever storm is about to hit the Sterling name? There's another detail that feels too intentional to ignore. The show made sure we saw Michaela struggle before leaving. Not chaotic, not desperate. Controlled, thoughtful. She wasn't acting impulsively. She was deciding. And when a character decides something calmly in this universe, it usually means they know more than the audience does. John's death was sudden. A brain aneurysm in the middle of the night. No warning, no illness, no drawn-out decline. Just gone. That kind of abrupt loss is emotionally devastating, but it's also narratively suspicious. Bridgerton doesn't kill characters randomly, without consequences rippling outward. So here's the uncomfortable question. What if John's death triggered more than grief? What if it set something in motion? Michaela would be one of the few people capable of connecting those dots.
She understands the Sterling world. She understands its pressures. And if she sensed even the slightest instability surrounding John's estate or legacy, staying by Francesca's side emotionally would not be enough. She would need to act strategically. Leaving could give her freedom to move without dragging Francesca into conflict. Leaving could protect Francesca from being pulled into something she's not ready to face. And that makes Michaela's exit look less